I'm going to sing to you guys a prayer that I wrote. It is relatively short, but sweet and powerful, I think. It goes like this. In this life, I choose to vibrate higher. I am lifted like a moon in a cobalt sky, watching abandoned thoughts run through the open wide. Not judging the drama that occupies the mind. I let this sound be my portal. I let it be light I see by. I let it be where I am humbled, only to pour out the divine. My cup never runneth over, for I do grow with my blessings. See, I always knowing I am one with the source of my supply. It is my honor, it is my pleasure, it is my joy to bring onto the virtual stage a brilliant voice that is moving people around the world at this point, I believe. My sister friend, Reverend Savanna Riker, blah, 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 blah.
Thank you, Jen. All right, so just for a second, can I see all of you? Turn on your videos for a moment so I know who I'm talking to. Hello, everyone. Good morning. It's good to see your faces. For those of you who do have your videos on, there you are. I'm zooming in from Seattle, Washington. Wow, this is so great. And what's even cooler about this for me is that normally on Sunday mornings, at least when I was in Oakland, my mother, who lives in Colorado, she's an hour ahead, so she's also a minister and she would be teaching at this time. And so she gets to call in and zoom in too. So I get to have my mom on the call, which is so great. Awesome. Okay, cool. So just for the sake of the service, you can turn your videos off now for the, yeah, I just had to see all of you. I'm so happy to be back. It feels like it's been a minute. And I just want you all to know that I love you. I miss you. And it's been really great to have many of you on my Savvy Chats every Thursday. We're building a really powerful community there. So it's been really awesome to see many of you show up for that community. And I saw this really funny meme recently that said, so in retrospect, in 2015, not a single person got the answer right to, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I thought that was really funny and touche for what we're experiencing right now. So this morning's topic and talk title is The Great Work of Your Life. And as of late, I've been writing a lot of content. I've been, as ministers do, writing a lot of talks. And to be honest, I've been struggling with inspiration. I've been struggling with knowing what to say sometimes, of how to deliver a message into the world with so much uncertainty and fear. And I've been leaning into my spiritual practice more so, and an inner knowing of what is possible. And it seems that all I have learned thus far is actually preparing me, and I have been prepared for moments like this. I think many of us have been prepared for moments like this. Yet there's been this question mark of, what is my work? What is the great work of my life? And so I was thinking back to the history of my great-grandparents who lived during World War I and the Great Depression, the Spanish influenza, how they were growing tobacco in the Deep South in Virginia and Tennessee. They were raising their families and working hard. And I remember the stories my mother used to tell of her grandmother and how hard life was back then for them. The outhouses and no washers and dryers, working in the fields, some of them having not gone to school, past the 4th grade. And I believe that was my grandmother, actually. And I think about how simple life must have been then, but equally trying. And they didn't have the technology or the social media, and they didn't have the Netflix or the TikTok. The great work of their lives was survival. It was family. It was farming and bluegrass music. And so I sometimes think about the privilege that it is that we have so much information now, that we have a spiritual teaching that was primarily accessible to the educated white folks of Ernest Holmes's day. It was for, intellectuals and outside of the box thinkers. And thank goodness that some of, the most amazing theologians and activists of our time, like Dr. Martin Luther King and Howard Thurman and Ernest Holmes, Harriet Tubman, were the light workers that were breaking barriers and the status quo. And they were, by being courageous, by being convicted and deeply moved by their vision. And so that was the great work of their time. So this question has been asked for a really long time. What is the meaning of my life, and what is my great work? And it sounds like some sort of grandiose assignment that we must fulfill. But what if the great work of our lives is to remember whose and who we are? It is to, as Howard Thurman would say, to never forget that to which my life is committed. And from that, we are informed of our purpose and our inspiration. It has been said that you cannot plan an inspired life. You cannot plan an inspired life. If you ask enduringly high achievers about their success, most of them will tell you it was a serendipitous journey. And at such a time as this, I think about all that I know and have experienced in my young life, and I realize that there is so much I do not know and so much that is still left uncertain. But there are a few things that I believe to be our great work, and I want to share those with you this morning. And the first one is, our great work is about giving our gifts away. It is about expressing who we are and giving those talents and those gifts away. As we read earlier in the reading, The Golden Life by Gay Hendricks said, the golden life is not to attain some imaginary ideal. It is to find and fully use our own gifts. You cannot possibly know or, how or when everything is going to fall into place. And when we are on the path of listening, when we're leaning into our intuition, it's a feeling, it's a knowing. We get to charge into the conditions of our lives, bringing all of our fire with us, no matter what the rationale of the reasonable world would tell you. And the naysayers, of course, and the pundits who would think of you otherwise, or tell you how much they have accomplished, or how it is impossible for you to succeed, I say, no one knows the secrets that you hold. And one of my favorite authors, Tammy Keeves, she says about the world and the naysayers, she says, they cannot foresee the sweep of your destiny or the evolution of your creativity. They do not know the dispensation of miracles. She says, it's worth a bit of discomfort to feel more infinitely alive than you ever thought possible. That is when possibilities, opportunities, and abundance start to show up. I just love that. No one knows the secrets you hold. So 1 year ago, many of you know I embarked on my third journey to the land of the Pharaohs, into Egypt. And I look back at that experience, and as I said earlier, you can't really plan an inspired life. And I look at that experience and realize that so much of that I could not have planned for. It was this inner nudge and this guidance that I was listening to. I could not have known the adventure that I was about to go on, but it was about showing up and using my gifts anyways. Because the truth is that we have extraordinary faculties that are embedded within us. And sometimes showing up is just the first step. It is that intuitive listening and that trusting that we are always being guided. It is listening to love more than fear. The second thing I want you to know about the great work of your life is that your work is your medicine. Your work, and that could mean your career, your vocation, but that also could mean your inner work. Your work is your medicine. Some days over the past few months, I know for many of us, some have not felt like getting out of bed in the morning. Or maybe you have been super productive and you are this go get it mode. Maybe you're busy as ever with homeschooling and working from home. And others have used this time for total solace and reprieve and reflection. There are days when I don't want to teach and I don't want to speak or give a talk, and when I feel like I don't want to lead a session or do my exercise, and there are days when I doubt myself and my purpose, days when I think maybe I cannot serve my clients well. And there are days when I think that maybe I'm a fraud because I'm in fear or worry about something and I have to go teach a class on forgiveness or empowerment or self-compassion. And then I realize that my calling and my cause has a life force that is bigger than me. And so I want you to just say this, internally to yourself or out loud to yourself. My calling and my cause has a life force that is bigger than me. And so looking at my work as an honor and a privilege and a prayer, that is my medicine. And it is my offering to the world and to myself. Your work, your passions, that thing that you were meant to be about, it is your medicine. And our gifts, they give us a place to stand. They give us a place to belong. Tamma Keeves also said this. She said, it's not you who empowers the gift, it's the gift that empowers you, because our gifts are impersonal. It's not you who empowers the gift, it's the gift that empowers you. And so with that knowledge in mind, I realized that I don't have to be, and we don't have to be in the right mood for truth. We don't have to be in the right mood for truth, because what truly moves my soul will always move my soul and will always move your soul. The next thing that I want you to know about the great work of your life is to remember your true nature, and your true nature is love. The great work of our lives is to remember our true natures, and that love is the ultimate reality. And when you are in communion with love, you never lose touch with that true nature. When you lose connection to love, you experience pain and you suffer. And of course, in our suffering, there is purpose, because in our pain, it sometimes wakes us up. And so it helps us learn to reconnect with the presence of love in our hearts. Jan Van Zant has this great acronym for pain. She says, pay attention inward now. Pay attention inward now, because pain informs us and it gives us information of where we are out of alignment and where we must love those places within us that might feel separate. So a few weeks ago, I had this really incredible opportunity. I was invited to a really small gathering on a Zoom call with author, writer, and former presidential candidate Marianne Williamson. And some of you might know this and others may not, but about 15 years ago, I was listening to her at a talk she was giving at Mile High Church in Denver, Colorado. And I walked out of her talk because I was so offended by some of the things she was saying about millennials and how we have no drive and no passion in our lives. And at the time, I really couldn't take in what she was saying. And so I happened to see her a year ago at this small gathering, and I told her this. And I said, Marianne, I walked out of your talk 15 years ago. And she said, oh my God, what did I say? And of course, we got to talk a little bit about that, and she got to share what was on her heart at that time. And she asked that some of our New Thought leaders meet for another meeting. And so we all met on Zoom a few weeks ago. And what was really profound about this experience is that I sat there in this room of some of the most incredible movers and shakers in our New Thought organization, the people that I have admired for so long. And I sat there and thought to myself, how did I end up in this room? And then she started speaking about how we needed to have, as New Thought leaders in the world, that we needed to have moral courage and prophetic vision. And that it was time for us as a New Thought organization to take a stand for love and for truth, and to be unafraid of who we are in the world as New Thought people. And that we've kind of been on the sidelines for a long time. And so it was a moment for me of an affirmation of you're doing your great work because you're giving your gifts away, you are staying connected to the truth of who you are and to love. And so not only was it inspiring to be part of this group, but to understand that we have a message, and it is not the time to bury our heads in the sand for fear's sake, for lack, or because we're comfortable in our small congregations, but that it is our time to show up in a bigger way through love. And it was such a powerful demonstration of consciousness for so many years, for my life and for all of those on the call. And so I share this with you also to just remember that there is a bigger picture, that there is a bigger vision unfolding and happening, not only in our own communities, but out in the world. And we are part of that. We are co-creating with that. And so the next thing I want to share, the last piece of what it is that is our great work. And I think that this is probably the most, at least for me, the most challenging. And when you come into a spiritual teaching such as this, is that we must take responsibility for everything. We must forgive the past and ourselves and take dominion over our thoughts and our thinking. I noticed that new students, when you first come into this teaching, we learn about the 4 stages of consciousness. Kingdom 1 consciousness or Kingdom 2 consciousness. And the first one is victim consciousness, where we often operate from a place where everything in our lives is happening to us. Everything else outside of us is to blame for our situation or our issues or our circumstances. We have not taken any ownership or responsibility for how our lives have unfolded or the choices we have made. And so usually it's God or the world or my government or a partner, a family member, you name it, my coworker, that is to blame for our lives being the way that they are. And so what this does is it keeps us in a drama cycle and toxic relationship. It keeps us stuck. It keeps us hostage to the conditions of the world. But then once we start to move into Kingdom 2 consciousness, which is where we start to observe the world and see that we actually have the power to change our lives, that we are co-creating with something greater than we are, then we can see that life is not happening to us, rather it is happening by me. And so when we claim that power and we realize that we have the power already, then we can start creating new patterns and new beliefs. We move into the by me stage. And so that means that we have to take responsibility for everything that we're creating, for everything that is showing up in our lives, because this is the only way to truly be free. My mom has said it forever, that this is an inside job, that everything is an inside job. And so nothing outside of you is your greatest power, because it lives within you. And you are the common denominator to all the problems in your life. So it is your consciousness that you want to shift and raise. No one else is responsible for your work. Like I said before, your work is your medicine, but your work is still your work. And so people may come into our lives and influence us, and they may mirror our wounds back to us as our wound mates. But ultimately, we will only know ourselves when we stop betraying ourselves. And this has been an evolutionary process for many, including myself. Spiritual growth like this is not linear. It is a process. And so sometimes it's scary to face our shadows, right? It's scary to face the hidden and the disowned and the denied aspects of ourselves. But those places are God too. And so it takes a master with courage to turn and face the darkness and to shine his light or her light there. And it can be scary to become conscious because, you know, we realize that once we become conscious on this conscious path, we cannot go back. Once you know something, you know that you already know. One of my favorite poets, Khalil Gibran, put it like this. It is said that before entering the sea, a river trembles with fear. She looks back at the path she has traveled, from the peaks of the mountains, the long winding road crossing forests and villages. And in front of her, she sees an ocean so vast that to enter, there seems nothing more than to disappear forever. But there is no other way. The river cannot go back. Nobody can go back. To go back is impossible in existence. The river needs to take the risk of entering the ocean because only then will fear disappear. Because that's where the river will know it's not about disappearing into the ocean, but of becoming the ocean. So we can use this time right now to face ourselves, to face our fears, to show yourself what you are made of, to change the struggle narrative and the victim woe is me narrative to inspired living. Because when we are inspired, we are unstoppable. And so the great work of our lives, to summarize for all of us, is to give our gifts away, to give them freely, to give our gifts away, and to see that our work truly is our medicine. And not to abandon, do not abandon that until you have given and gotten the gift. Sometimes we might leave our situation or our pain, we might leave the work without getting the gift. There is no greater purpose and vision unfolding for this world, or actually not no greater, but there is a greater purpose that is unfolding for you and this world. And we get to participate in that. And so we get to remember our true nature, which is love, because love is the greatest power there is. And lastly, the most important, I think, and maybe the hardest, is to take responsibility for everything that shows up in your life and to forgive everything and everyone. This is the great work of our lives. And this is what I strive as well to do as a spiritual leader and teacher, and to remember our union with the Most High, to stop the cycle of toxic patterns and self-sabotage, this limited thinking, to stop the patterns of struggle, that life is meant to be a struggle and hard, and to stop betraying ourselves, to living a life that is fully, filled with joy and peace and surrender, fun and play. And so with that, let us take a moment to go within now for an affirmative prayer. So if you feel comfortable, just closing the eyes and taking that holy breath with me. Turning within for a moment and remembering that the power and the presence of life is right where we are. The infinite intelligence that is breathing itself in through and as my life is the activity of love itself. It operates in my life perfectly. I don't even have to think about it because it is the essence of everything. It is that thing itself. And so this power and this presence is living and breathing and moving through me. And as I know this for myself, I know this for every single person on this call, that you are a divine expression of the one infinite life. And we are co-creating with it at every moment. And it is seeking to express beauty and joy and wisdom and opportunity. It is seeking to express abundance and wholeness and perfection as our very lives. And so as we continue to turn towards it and to absolutely affirm and know the truth for ourselves, I know for each and every one of us that there is a transformation that is happening for all of us on this call and all of those who watch later. That there is this energy that is pulsating, that is palpable, that is moving and spiraling into greater vibrations, greater dimensions of love and beauty and understanding, so that we might raise our consciousness to be more whole, more abundant, and more connected with what is really the truth of who we are. And so we release any self-judgment or any thoughts of fear or anxiety or separation. And we come back to the wisdom of our own inner knowing and guidance, tapping into that connection to that one source that is always providing, that is always giving of itself in miraculous and amazing ways. And so we open ourselves up and allow ourselves to have miracles show up in our lives, to have wisdom come to us at all hours of the day, that we become receptive to the goodness and the opportunities and the joy that life is seeking to bring and express into our lives right here and right now. And so if there is anyone on this call or out in the world who has a prayer request in this moment, we just bring that name or that person or that situation into our hearts right now. You might put your hand over your heart. And you might say their name aloud. Allowing a healing and a wholeness to take place, a divine right action to be known, for there to be peace and comfort, clarity, for any and everyone dealing with a struggle or a hardship. And so I'm knowing for all of us that we are transformed in this moment, that there is inspiration, that there is hope, that there is absolute certainty that all truly is well. And so with this, with gratitude in my heart for the spiritual community, for the many ways that we show up to serve, to continue serving in this community for Oakland Center for Spiritual Living, I am so abundantly grateful for so many hearts, for so many loves that are in this community. And so I release my word now into the activation of love itself, for it cannot return void. And we let that be the truth. And so together, let us all say Ashe, and so it is. Amen.